This podcast is brought to you with limited interruption by Rudy Luther Toyota. Whether looking for an exciting brand new Toyota, a certified pre-owned vehicle, or getting quality routine maintenance and service for your vehicle, Rudy Luther Toyota is the place to go. Rudy Luther Toyota, the southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley. Broadcasting live on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, in the evenings on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, and in the nighttime hours, 1150 AM KKNW in Seattle. It is the Matt McNeil Show for your Thursday. Matt and Patrick here today. Patrick, where did you see the story coming that apparently RFK Jr. is going to be Health and Human Services Director?
This was from CBS News. This is an alert they just sent a few minutes ago.
Dear Lord, you got to be kidding me! Wow, that is. I'm not seeing it anywhere else yet, but. Yeah. A guy who basically thinks vaccines are poison is now in charge of Health and Human Services. Will be in charge of Health and Human Services. I'll get to him. I got actually some things about him a little bit later on because there was some speculation before this announcement came in, but unbelievable. I mean, it's, I guess this kind of falls into my first topic that I want to get into today. And it's something that is going to be very hard to hear, I think, for a lot of Democrats, because the mentality of politics today is that if you say you have a government program, and it helps 100 people, but it is determined one person out of that 100 didn't need the help. Say it's food aid. That 99 people needed the food aid, but one person in that group did not. That Republicans will basically say, I would rather have 99 people starve than one person get necessary need, anything they need that they didn't deserve. And that's kind of the mentality of the right. The Democrats, although they sometimes get pegged this way, I think to a point it's false, but it's kind of the other way around. That if one person out of the 100 gets help, that they will gladly feed 99 people that didn't need help just to make sure the one person gets it. Now, I think that's a bit of an exaggeration, but the truth is that's kind of, Democrats are generally people that care about other people. I am, in case you missed the memo, a very large white man, heterosexual Christian. Now, once again, I'm not trying to just, convince anyone to be, you do whatever religion you want to do, or none at all. That's up to you. There you go, my disclaimer. I know that I am in a protected class. I do. The worries I have since the election are relatively minuscule comparatively to what a lot of people are going through right now. But there wasn't a conspiracy or fraud. This election went this way. Once again, and I've got some theories on this coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. And I'll share it really quick here. Every few years, we basically just don't show up. And what I'm actually starting to come to grips with is that it's the years that the Democrats run as moderate Republicans, that's the years we end up getting absolutely creamed. And that's exactly, Harris ran as she was running out there with Liz Cheney. I got Angie Craig in this district in Minnesota here. She's Minnesota 2nd Congressional District. Angie Craig is sitting here going, you Democrats need to be more like me, because she ran basically I hate the Democrats, and I'm paraphrasing, but I hate the Democrats as a Democrat campaign. And she won in a district which is basically kind of a toss-up district, but at the same time, and she won handily. Harris she wasn't running with AOC and Bernie Sanders on either side of her. She was running a fairly conservative campaign, and she got her clock cleaned. Well, she didn't. It was close. 51 to 48 is basically the final percentages. But still, she lost. And this generally seems to be the tide in 2020 and 2010 when we absolutely got creamed in the midterm elections. What happened? Well, the party basically ran on the "we need to apologize for the Affordable Care Act" plan. How dare you liberals within our own party try to force that on America? And they got creamed. And funny, the same moderate Republicans after the election sat there saying, why did we run away from the Affordable Care Act? Yeah, exactly. 2016 as well. When you look at the years that the Democrats have done well, generally it's a middle-of-the-road Democratic platform. It's not a, hey, I'm looking to get as many Republicans to work with me as possible. That doesn't inspire. And mission accomplished. Now, it doesn't mean, and by the way, what I'm implying here is it doesn't mean we had to be the most far-left progressive platform ever, but any fool moderate Democrat who's sitting there saying, we need to be more moderate, you basically didn't pay attention to any of the campaign, because basically that was a ton of what the Democrats was, we're really light Republicans, and that's really, and I think you fail to invigorate your own base. And 8 million Democrats just didn't show up. There you go. Faced with two choices she didn't like, Sahalia Amin chose neither. Instead, the longtime Democrat with the Arab American stronghold of Dearborn, Michigan, backed a third-party candidate for president, adding her voice to a remarkable turnaround that helped Trump reclaim Michigan in the presidency. In Dearborn, where nearly half of the 110,000 residents are Arab descent, Vice President Kamala Harris received over 2,500 fewer voters than Trump, who became the first Republican presidential candidate since George W. Bush in 2000 to win the city. Harris also lost neighboring Dearborn Heights to Trump, who in his previous term as president banned travel from several mostly Muslim countries. Many Arab Americans felt Harris got what she deserved but aren't jubilant about Trump. Whether it's Trump himself or the people who are around him, it does pose a great deal of concern for me, Amin said. But at the end of the day, when you have two evils running, what are you left with? Well, you clearly want to ignore the far more substantial evil. But hey, fine. You feel like you did something. Good for you. Democrats, we, once again, like to be nice guys. You're going to have to let this hurt. And it's going to have to let this hurt these people, these individuals that supported Trump badly. Because it does us no good as a party to take the one step forward and 3 steps back. And that's kind of the pattern we've been in since 2000, is that, people will support us after the Republicans screw them over for one election, and then basically they fight against us the rest of the time, and then they come back and, oh, we need your help now. And the Democrats are like, okay, we're going to help you, even though you hurt us the last few elections. And boom, help them one time, and boom, they immediately turn on you. You can't solve this problem by doing what they expect, bailing their asses out once the consequences of the actions they began kick into gear. Don't blame Democrats for voting the way you did. You voted. Don't blame anyone else. Look in the mirror. You voted for Donald Trump, or you voted to basically enable Donald Trump to come in there, or if you didn't vote, it's the same thing. So, as far as the Arab American community, Gaza's gone, man. Forget about it. It is you can call up Democrats all day long. There's nothing they can do to stop it. Courtesy of a lot of Arab American votes. The West Bank is gone. More than likely, there's going to be a war in Iran. And let's not forget the deportations. Mass deportation now. So if you have anyone who who's a friend or a family member who's in the country undocumented, trust me, they're not going to go get the Swedes. They're not getting the Norwegians. They're not getting the Germans. Nope. They're looking at skin color first and foremost. And names. Helga ain't going to get deported. That's just the reality, man. And when this community comes back to the Democrats and says, you got to help us, you have to have the guts to look at them and said, I'm sorry, this is what you voted for. This is it. And yeah, that's going to be a real tough pill. But it's time for there to be consequences for the actions. I talked about this the other day about unions. There are a few unions out there who basically proudly endorse Trump. Well, when Trump does, and once again, unless it's a police union, fire union, or a sports union, they are going to go after every union out there. And when that union that endorsed Republicans saying there's no difference, they're not going to do anything, all of a sudden they've lost their union is gone. They're in a right-to-work situation. They get minimum wage. They have no benefits. Their pension is gone. And they come back and say, you Democrats need to help us. No. You voted for this. And as a matter of fact, with the unions, it's easy. You can see who their endorsements went to. And I get it. There are a lot of people in those unions who basically did not go along with that. But there's got to be consequences for this stuff. And so, yeah, I am saying that the Democratic Party, when they do eventually get back into power, goes out and helps the unions that endorse the Democrats. And they don't do a damn thing for the unions that don't. Your occupation field just became a minimum wage job. It's like you're working at a gas station. You did this to yourself. And this expectation that the Democrats have to save them from themselves is not doing us any good. It's not. When the import tariffs kick in and all of a sudden everything you're buying costs you a heck of a lot more, well, you Democrats, you need to help us. No, we don't. We don't have to help you. There is a reason for this. In England this year, there was a mass throwing out of the right wing of the party. Why? Because they got to the austerity measures, and the austerity measures hurt the equivalent of the Republican voters out there. The MAGA Brits all basically got screwed over by the Tories. And they threw them out and put Labor into power by a wide, wide margin. Because Labor had to say, I'm sorry, you voted for this. And by making them stop and look in the mirror and say, oh my God, what have I done to myself? That's how you get a massive wave of 100 and 150 seats changing hands in the House, 25 seats changing hands in the Senate. That's how that happens. And it doesn't help to basically constantly sit there and say, we're going to bail you out right away. No, especially after they double-crossed us. So, good luck with all that. It's time for some tough love, and you deserve it. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Try to make it last. Coming out of my cage and I've been doing just fine. Gotta be down because I want it all. It started out with a kiss.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. Apparently CNN, I know, they are shocked. Shocked, they say, that RFK Jr. is going to be put up here for the Department of Health, the Health Secretary, Health and Human Services. They're shocked. Shocked. The same network that heard Donald Trump for 4 months say, I'm going to put him in charge of the health care and the food of this country. Shocked. Shocked, they say. Shocked. Who could have seen that coming? God, is the national news media absolutely pathetic. I mean, it's watching CNN and the New York Times and all these guys frantically fall over themselves to try to say, well, boy, did you see what this guy's going to do after the election? This whole, we are really upset about this victory and these cabinet appointees. Come on, man. No one's buying it. You went along with it. It's the Viking Stadium getting approved, and then the Star Tribune writes the first anti-stadium story the day after it's approved. Once they got it built, then they now you can talk about it. It's the same damn thing, man. It's the same damn thing. Oh, God. An anti-vaxxer is going to be Health and Human Services. I'm going to guess when measles and mumps are running rampant through the country again, when all of a sudden people are losing 2-3 kids before they even turn 8 years old, are they going to sit there and say, "You dang Democrats, you did this. Little Jimmy Jr. deserved a life, and he died of an easily preventable disease. How dare you, Democrats?" Sorry. You guys did this to yourself, man. You guys did this to yourself. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Kennedy made a pledge last month on Fox News he would get processed food out of school lunches immediately if he's given the position in the second Trump administration. Now, I want to stop and take you back in time a little bit. One of the main reasons Republicans voted for Trump in 2016 is because they were so upset about Michelle Obama making school lunches healthier that basically, how dare you take the Cheetos and the pizza out of the school lunch? Don't you know my little Billy needs all those extra unnecessary processed calories? That was their mentality. That was. They were furious about how dare you meddle with our school lunches. And here we are. And now all of a sudden, RFK Jr. is becoming Michelle Obama himself. The message shocked nutrition experts who remember how Trump's first administration fought against stricter school lunch standards. In 2017, Sonny Perdue, Trump's ag secretary, declared he would make school meals great again. And for the next 4 years, he and the Republicans waged an assault on Michelle Obama's efforts to design healthier school menus when she was first lady. Kennedy's expected role overseeing aspects of food policy in the new administration, this is, like I said, written before he was put up there for health secretary, marks a significant shift in how Trump is planning to regulate the nation's food. Some of the key ideas Kennedy is pushing, such as stripping ultra-processed food from school cafeterias and cracking down on food dye, have been found public support in the left and the right. Now, once again, you're bottling Michelle Obama. I don't really have a problem with that. And I would think it's going to be good. I'm going to imagine you're going to have some fairly quick meetings if you push this with Republicans who are going to be like, no, they need the processed goop, man. But the notion of putting Kennedy, founder of a prominent anti-vaccine group, in a position to shape health policies alarms some federal health officials and public health experts, as well as the food industry. They worry about his stated desire to fire nutritionists at the Food and Drug Administration. His promotion of products and medicines his agency has previously warned against, such as raw milk and hydrochloroquine, and a history of promoting debunked claims about vaccine safety. Seriously, all this stuff is gone. I mean, when he gets in charge, man, vaccines are gone, man. I imagine their thing is, well, you can choose to get the vaccine, but we're not going to require anyone have a vaccine. Outside of their private, prestigious, white, wealthy, Republican private schools, I guarantee you those school districts will still have a requirement for a vaccine because they don't want little Susie and little Billy, billionaire, to basically come down with a treatable disease. No, this is for the public school districts. They can be petri dishes. Wow. Here's a man who presents himself as an advocate for science but embraces the least scientific aspects of the medical system, said Peter Lurie, president of the Center for Science and Public Trust, a nonprofit that warns about the drawbacks of ultra-processed food and food dye. He's also a former FDA official in the Obama administration. Kennedy faults Democrats for failing to prioritize healthy food. Oh, I think that brainworm is definitely gone. It's enjoying a second heap in there, isn't it? The fact that Democratic SACMs are debating whether their parties should support public health as a political strategy rather than embracing it as a core value is testimony of how out of touch and morally bankrupt the party has become, Kennedy told the Washington Post. Healthy food and clean, uncorrupted government agencies ought not to be a partisan issue. Well, then you need to talk to your own administration you're going to be part of, because they were the ones who in 2017 stopped the healthy food options. You idiot. What are you, got a brain eaten by? Oh, never mind. On social media and talk shows, Kennedy repeatedly hammers the food industry, claiming it to be mass poisoning the American public. I can already see it. I'm dead serious. I can already see him. I've got like an infomercial I've got this powder here that, I want every American to have. As a matter of fact, we're going to demand every American get one container of this, and you use it. Trust me, this will detoxify you and take out. Well, you'll get rid of the evil spirits that control your mind, courtesy of the vaccines, and we're going to get rid of all this stuff. He wants to get the chemicals out of food. Kennedy's also targeted McDonald's fries and falsely claimed that Fruit Loops in Canada have just 2 or 3 ingredients. They don't. He has argued that consuming seed oils, although a nutritionist put back against scientific questionable claims such as oils are toxic. He also wants to bar food stamps from being used to buy soda or processed foods. Now, by the way, that last one, I'm not totally against that idea. Overhauling the food policy generally takes years, and some experts say campaign promises could run into realities of governing. But in 2025, they reset the dietary guidelines for Americans. So guess what? It's going to go into the crapper. It is. Jeez. I want to stop. I want everyone to stop. All right? I want you to think for a quick second. What would the national news media be like if Harris would have won? And one of the people up for a cabinet position was talking about getting rid of all pre-processed foods. I want you to stop and think about what CNN and the New York Times. Forget it. We already know Fox News and OAN and Newsmax would be going apocalyptic. But I want you to think about how the Washington Post and Axios and the New York Times and CNN and MSNBC, how all of them were like, how dare they come in here and try to regulate Billy's Cheeto intake? How dare they? They would be having microphones and people saying, will those Democrats get out of our lives? And yet here this is. And let me guess. Let me just take a quick guess. No national news media is outraged right now? Oh, it's almost like they're biased as hell. Oh, God. Just a joy. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
I should have guessed that this would happen. I should have known.
It's the Matt McNeil Show. Broadcasting live in the evening, live on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, in the evenings on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, and, of course, in the nighttime hours, 1150 AM, KKNW in Seattle. Nice to have you with us today, 952-946-6205. Well, first of all, let me go back to the point I made earlier, which is that imagine a Democrat wins the presidency and one of the cabinet people coming in starts talking about regulating pre-processed food. I want you to think about that and how, indeed, CNN would be like, boy, are they people are angry. Dana Bash would be sitting here going right now, my phone just exploded at everyone who's so angry at the Democrats for trying to do this. They'd have people coming on, people coming on out saying, what's wrong with a big old barrel of gummy bears? They're delicious. That should be everyone's lunch. That sort of thing. They would have that. That would be the entire narrative. Kennedy does it, and they're like, oh, well, I guess we're going to get healthy food now. Well, they're not going to get healthy food because the Trump administration, there's no way in the planet the Trump administration is going to do anything to allow that to happen. No way. But yeah, you've got an anti-vaxxer who's going to be in charge of health. You've got a Russian spy in Tulsi Gabbard in charge of the spies. You got a pedophile as the attorney general, and then a rapist felon as president. There you go. This is what you get. I seriously, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I mean, if you've ever done a haunted community tour, like if you go to the East Coast there's one cool thing you can do on East Coast is some of those towns are really old and they'll have like a haunted tour that you can go on and walk around the town. And I've done a bunch of those, some good ones in Boston. I've done some in smaller towns. I did one down in Beaufort, South Carolina. I've done one in Savannah that was really good. And one of the things that always happens is you end up in a cemetery at some point, one of these ancient old cemeteries. And East Coast cemeteries are kind of cool. They really are. They got a really creepy vibe to them, man. And you get in there, and all of a sudden you'll see a plot where, Ma and Pa are buried, and then next to them are five kid-sized graves that none of them got out of the age of 8. He died of the spots. He died of the fever. He died of the spot fever. He died of the fever spots. They all died. And then they had they had 9 kids, and 2 of them made it to adulthood. That was called success back then. Today, we just generally don't have that kind of problem. But I honestly think, can you imagine in 4 years the skyrocketing preventable diseases, and the entire time Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to be sitting there as 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 kids die a week of preventable diseases, saying, "We're so much healthier today, aren't we? It's so much healthier today." Well, I don't know. Why don't we talk to the dead kids? Oh, my God. Rich is wanting to chime in. Rich is in the Twin Cities here. Rich, welcome in on the show here.
Matt, it's good to hear from you again, and I really enjoy your show. I was just wondering, as long as the clown show is being put together, I'm really pulling for him to find a job, probably as on the border, for Marjorie Taylor Greene, because she was trying to get him to sing or chant "Build a Wall" when Biden was doing his, State of the Year messages and stuff. I mean, I think with what's going on there, if we can't, as Democrats, as things go on and just skyrocket into insanity, we should be able to take back one of the 2 houses, I would think.
Rich, I appreciate the phone call. Thank you very much. I will. Where would you put Marjorie Taylor Greene? Where would you? The ambassador to France. We have to make that happen.
I don't know. Do you put her at the CDC where they have all the peach tree dishes?
Oh, the peach tree dishes. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, put her as the ambassador to France. God, that's like a sitcom, man. That is like a freaking sitcom. What the hell? Idiot. Why does her face look like this? Do you have something other than snails? Oh, God. Dream a little dream. That should be like a Parks and Rec or The Office type of show where there's a camera following her around everywhere they go, and you could do a weekly episode of Marjorie Taylor Greene as the ambassador to France. Oh, God, that would be just you can see her. You can see her going out there. Why don't you people understand English? Oh, God. I said something earlier, and I'm dead serious about it. The problem, I stand by my point about this party has become a party of a pile of ideas. That it's just you cannot have extreme far right Democrats and extreme far left Democrats in such a wide umbrella because there is no consistency in messaging. And once again, I'm going to start hammering on these moderate Republicans that keep sitting out there saying, well, if you guys would have only done, you should shut up. Stop talking, AOC. Stop talking, Bernie. Don't you say anything unless it's approved by me, and then we could win. That's what they're saying. Even though, once again, we ran probably the most moderate Democratic candidates race in the history of this country as a Democratic Party. Insanely moderate. I mean, my God, at times almost Republican. And yet, it didn't work. And this is what happens every once in a while. Every few elections, all of a sudden the moderates insist, you have to do everything we say, and if you say anything that's even moderate Democrat or even progressive Democrat, oh, shut up and say nothing. And then all of a sudden it implodes, and all of them are like, you should have done more like us. And we're like, no. a large portion of this problem has to do with the news media. And like I said, it is remarkable. CNN, when they hear Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to be the Secretary of Health in this country, that they're like, where did they come from? What are you? Shut up. You're acting, don't act like we're in this together. You're not on our side. You are not. New York Times, LA Times, Washington Post, Axios, Huffington Post, NBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, MSNBC, the AP, we are not on the same side. You guys basically buried everything against Trump until after the election. And now all of a sudden, because all of a sudden all the left is abandoning your product and doesn't want anything left to do with you clowns anymore, you all of a sudden are trying to become born-again progressives. Can you believe Donald Trump is doing this? Yes, he said he was going to do it for months, and you said nothing. There are a few good outlets out there. Newsweek seems to do an okay job. The BBC does okay. The Guardian does okay. I mean, there are a lot of good local, independent journalists. Heartland Signal, the Minnesota Reformer, Sahan Journal does a very good job. But God, it's the national media has not helped us. Here's another example of it. Republicans are now suddenly feeling positive about the economy for the first time in 4 years. Consumer sentiment used to reflect current economic conditions, but for the past several years, it's grown increasingly political. Morning Consult measures sentiment by asking people questions on whether the current economic conditions are good or bad and the expectations for the better or worse for the future. Heading into the election, Republican consumer sentiment was measured by the index. It was about 83 overall, with 100 being the break weather, so it was underwater. A post-Trump victory, it's now 107.5. Now, I want to make sure we understand something. It's not saying that we're hopeful the economy is going to turn around. Which, by the way, spoiler alert, the economy is actually really good right now. It is actually really good right now, although the national news media would never allow you to hear that during the campaign, because that would be us putting the fingers on the scale, Matt. We can't let people know of all the triumphs of the Democrats during the campaign. And meanwhile, you see Donald Trump, he's just a wacky character, isn't he? Exactly. Ugh. Yes. This is turning into therapy for me. But I want to make sure you understand that thing with the economic outlook. They're not saying, we're hopeful for a year things are going to be good. No. Republicans, the second the election was over, went from saying the economy right now, as we speak, with Joe Biden as president, was bad a week ago. Now they're saying it's great. This is what brainwashing looks like. Right there. The second that there's no need for them to convince people. Twitter doesn't have to do it. The national news media doesn't have to do it. The Republican Party doesn't have to do it, which is the national news media. They don't have to convince people the economy is bad anymore. And then suddenly, even though the economy hasn't changed, it's the same economy. All of a sudden now, the economy is great. Wait till those tariffs kick in. That funny story. Yeah, I'll let that be a surprise. That is what brainwashing looks like. Right there. I can't visualize that better. Everything's horrible. Election's over. Hey, it's over. Do you remember? I was for a while. Back in 2012, for that midterm, for that second term election. Actually, no, it's 2014. It's 2014, and I was doing some TV traffic. I know, weird story, but I was doing some TV traffic, and I was working with one of the local TV stations here, and I remember this because it was during that election cycle, during that midterm election of 2014. And remember, it was Ebola. Ebola's going to kill us all, and we had live coverage of a tent hospital outside of a New Jersey hospital that was constantly like, how many people are going to die? This is horrible. And then the morning of the election, every news outlet in the country stopped talking about Ebola. Everyone did. And I looked at the news people that were there, and this was like the day after the election. And I said, guys, what happened to the Ebola story? And they both kind of looked at me like, I don't know. It's just not there anymore. And it wasn't just their station. Everyone nationwide stopped talking about it instantaneously. And the reason why is that story wasn't real. It was just clutter to run interference for the Republicans. Suddenly, they didn't need to do that anymore, and all of a sudden, a Ebola crisis averted. It's that simple. This is the same exact thing. The economy is horrible. The economy is horrible. The economy is horrible. The day after the election, isn't the economy great? It's the same economy as it was before, you freaking knuckleheads. And as a matter of fact, it is pretty good. Wages massively increased dramatically under Joe Biden, especially for the lowest 10% of wage earners in this country. Dramatically. There was massive job creation under Joe Biden. Inflation was indeed bad because of the pandemic epidemic at the beginning. But what ends up happening? Things came down. And by the way, it's not inflation if the companies that are charging you $7 for a dozen eggs are making record profits. All those egg companies were just greedy bastards. That's all they were. That's all it was. The economy is actually doing really well. As a matter of fact, the inflation, by the way, for October came in at 0%, which is pretty remarkable. And crime, by the way, funny story, dramatically decreased in this country as well. But you wouldn't know this because during this entire election, the national news media failed us. They failed us spectacularly because not only did they intentionally downplay Trump's bad things, they overhyped Harris and Biden's bad things. They overhyped Trump's good things and downplayed Biden and Harris's good things. It's that simple. And that's how you get where we're at today. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
I'm out here 1,000 miles from my home.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. Have you heard any national news outlet mention the fact that since late 2022, wages have outpaced inflation in this country? And as a matter of fact, in the last 3 reports on this, wages are outpacing inflation by about 2 percentage points. Have you heard anyone talk about that? No. I'm sure on Christmas Day that the New York Times will have an extensive layout about, wow, Joe Biden had actually a really good economy. Oh, my gosh. He recovered from the pandemic and we did great. Boy, oh, boy. On Christmas Day. Behind the jumble in the paper. Oh, they'll, MSNBC, they won't have one of those prison shows on the weekend. It's like, hey, just to let you know here is it's New Year's Eve at 11:50. I just wanted to let you know, boy, oh boy, I'm kind of surprised about this. The Biden economy was pretty good. Well, now back to more prison. Probably will. Unbelievable. That's the world we live in, folks. I will say this. The mass exodus away from Twitter is pretty good. I would go to Blue Sky or Threads. That seems to be picking up the bulk of it. Those two are Blue Sky and Threads. I have picked up a ton of followers on Blue Sky in the last few days. Find me, Matt McNeil Show, on Blue Sky. On Threads, it's Matthew McNeil 1. You can find me there. And follow, I'll annoy you. I promise I will. 952-946-6205. This is like yesterday. Matt Gaetz is the Attorney General. RFK Jr. is the Secretary of Health. Unbelievable. We put Dracula in charge of the blood bank. What could go wrong? Although I still am getting a chuckle out of the idea of Marjorie Taylor Greene being the ambassador to France. Let me tell you what you're doing wrong here. I'll put a little smile on your face, a little one. The satirical news publication The Onion won the bidding war for Alex Jones's InfoWars at a bankruptcy auction. No joke. The Onion was backed by the families of Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting victims, whom Jones owes more than $1 billion in a defamation judgment for calling the massacre a hoax. The purchase turns over Jones's company, which for decades has peddled the conspiracy theories and misinformation, to a humor website that plans to relaunch the InfoWars platform in January as a parody within hours of the sales announcement Thursday. InfoWars' website was down, and Jones was broadcasting from what he said was a new studio location. The dissolution of Alex Jones's assets and the death of InfoWars in the justice we have long waited for and fought for, said Robbie Parker, whose daughter Emil was killed in the 2012 shooting in Connecticut. And the statement applies to the lawyers. The Onion acquired the conspiracy theory platform, website, social media accounts, studio in Austin, Texas, trademarks, and video archive for an undisclosed sales price. A video archive they own now, you say? Okay. The satirical outlet, which carries the banner of America's finest news source on its masthead, was founded in 1980s and for decades has skewered politics and pop culture, including making Jones a frequent target of mocking articles. Mass shootings in the U.S., such as the Sandy Hook attack, are often followed by The Onion publishing slightly updated versions of its most well-known or recurring pieces. No way to prevent this, says Only Nation, where this regularly happens. No price would be too high for such a cornucopia of malleable assets and minds, The Onion said on its satirical post for the sale. And yet, in stroke of good fortune, a formidable special interest group has outwitted the hapless owner of InfoWars, a forgettable man with an already forgotten name, and forced him to sell it at a steep bargain, less than $1 trillion. On his live broadcast, Jones was angry and defiant, vowing to challenge the sale and auction process in court. He later announced his show was being shut down. Jones had told listeners for days he had a new studio set up nearby, then resumed his broadcast from the new location, carrying them live on his Twitter accounts. This is a total attack on the free speech. The deep state is completely out of control, Jones told his listeners. This tyranny of the New World Order, desperate to silence the American people. Now, you basically, I want to remind everyone, Alex Jones, after a psychopath, a madman with an AR-15, which they were able to get very freely, walked into an elementary school and slaughtered a bunch of kids. And there were numerous insane responses from the pro-gun right in the aftermath of Sandy Hook. We can't forget that. It was 12 years ago. I remember waiting for my kids to come off the school bus with, just my heart in my throat. Just, oh my God. I just wanted my kids off that bus and I wanted them back home. There were numerous Republicans who came out and said the teachers were to blame because they didn't use their Matrix-esque type of bullet dodging ability. There were people who were saying that the school should have had $2 million worth of upgrades to turn it into basically a castle. And multiple Republicans across the country were arguing that all schools should be turned into a castle. And when finally someone said, this is going to cost about $5 or $6 trillion, they suddenly said, we're going to give you $30,000, and if you can't do it, that's on you. That was them. I remember Republicans saying that there should be gun turrets, like in an old, prison, at every elementary school in the country. That elementary schools should get bulletproof whiteboards that the kids can wield like Captain America and deflect bullets like there's no tomorrow as they're being shot at by a psychopath with a gun. And then, of course, we should arm the teachers, because as a teacher is teaching a class in say, I don't know the alphabet, they can instantaneously drop everything, grab the gun, which would have to be on their hip in the classroom, unholstered so they can get quick access to it, round in the chamber, safety off, get them up into a firing position where they are aiming and able to get a shot off on a man who is spraying the room with bullets and get off a kill shot without getting shot themselves. Common sense. But then came Alex Jones, who basically insisted it never happened because in the case of all this, They didn't have any ability to say, how horrible is this? What have we become as a nation? Instead, they decided to blame the parents and the victims. And yeah. Chicago, Seattle, talk to you tomorrow. Minneapolis, St. Paul, hour 2 up next. Hour number 2 of the show here on your Thursday. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as the Secretary of Health. Unbelievable. We are about to go through some things, man. We are about to go through some things. This country is going to suddenly look like the 1880s. Unbelievable. Oh, God. Unbelievable. The only thing you can do, and I mean, hey, I live in a state where all my reps that represent me are Democrats. If you're in a state and you've got a Republican there, you've got to let them know. It's like, you can't, this can't be serious. You guys can't be serious about this stuff. And what they're banking on, and this, why would they worry? Because you know what? The voters are stupid freaking idiots because they can do as much heinous stuff as they want to for the next year. But all of a sudden they'll say, well, sure, yeah, we made sure smallpox came back and polio is now a thing again. And yeah, we got a war in Iran. And yeah, basically we've got a pedophile in charge of the Attorney General's office who's weaponized the daylights out of it. And all of our secrets are now in the Russians' hands. But you know, Kamala Harris needed to flush out her Gaza policy a little bit more than she had. Oh, by the way, Gaza doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. Oh, God. This is going to be something. I mean, it just, brace yourselves. Brace yourselves. I mean, it's putting Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in charge. It would be like saying, maybe we should give Ebola a chance to see it. Maybe it's not as bad as they say it is. If you survive Ebola, you're not going to get Ebola again. So I think we should, kind of go with that. By the way, I have no idea if you do get Ebola. Patrick, do not try to go. Don't lick anything. Do not get Ebola. Okay. You know that bucket of Ebola we have behind you there? Do not lick that. Do not. I do not know if you can only get it one time. And generally, I think you only got like a 60% chance of surviving. So, I don't know if you want to take those odds. I guess it's like online gambling. I'll get to that a little bit later on. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Patrick, we are at the time of the year where a few things start to happen. One is we are starting to get, I don't know if you're aware, but we are in Minnesota. It's going to get cold here, and it's going to get some snow. And so apparently next week there's a chance at some snow, which there's only like one model that says we could really get hammered. Only one model. Every other model has it like an inch or a trace, and that's it in the Twin Cities. But the narrative is basically, here it comes, big snowstorm, all these things. Because one model says it, but basically every other model says it's not going to hit, heavily due to hear it at all.
Well, we do have that sort of romanticism that, 90% chance nothing's going to happen, but that 10% chance we're going to get absolutely whacked. That's kind of the romantic view that we have in this state.
One of the reasons I like Sven Sundgaard over there, because he generally, he'll be the first to say, well, there's one model that says we're going to get hit, but the rest of the models say it's going to be light, if anything. One or two of the models, as a matter of fact, funny, I was looking at one story about it, and one of the models that showed that it was not going to get any snow at all, that was the last model they put in the story. It's like, well, I guess we should mention that there is a chance it might not be here. I don't know. We could end up getting a lot of snow. We might not. But I generally don't want to go out. It's not about stop trying to scare people into to being a viewer or being a reader. Don't do that.
Maybe this is where the grocery stores help write these articles. We need to sell bread and milk.
Yeah, do we really need to, though? I mean, we're pretty good at clearing snow up here. I mean, an inch in the ground, it's pretty warm. It'll probably melt on its own. I mean, we got a practicality here that we're not panicking, at least. It's not Iowa. Thanksgiving. Are you doing your Thanksgiving get-together? You got family? You doing that?
Yep, I will have at least one family get-together, probably do something else quietly at home, more in the evening hours.
All right. I'm going to have family over at my place. That means I will not be trying. Have you heard about this, the Pizza Luce thing that they do? The Thanksgiving tradition?
Yeah, I actually tried that pizza for the first
Okay.
time last year.
All right. There is part of me that's, and I'm just going to say this before we find out what you think. And mind you, you just had a bunch of Japanese food, and you gave us a pretty good insight onto that. My first thought is, okay, wow, no. But at the same time, I look at this and say, it probably doesn't taste bad. Your thoughts when you had the Gobbler, which is a Thanksgiving pizza topped that everything that belongs on Thanksgiving spread. And apparently it's brushed with garlic butter, being layered with turkey breast, mashed potatoes, mushroom stuffing, cheddar, and mozzarella. Ugh. Sliced green onion also comes on the side with some cranberry sauce. So basically you kind of get a lot of the flavors of Thanksgiving. You had it. What did you think?
It's one of those things that I liked it enough to get it again. It's
Okay.
you know, one of those items that come around for a limited time that you maybe go, this isn't the best thing, but because it's kind of like the Shamrock Shake that you go, this isn't the most amazing thing you'll ever have, but it's just this thing that's good enough, and it's only available in this limited window. I'm going to put it in my diet for a week.
The pineapple frosty, man. Oh, come on, man. Stop it. You're teasing me. No, the Shamrock Shake is actually a good thing. You know, it. Like I said, I mean, on one side of it's like, but it's not. Technically, this is not pizza. This is basically a Thanksgiving flatbread. A Thanksgiving leftover flatbread. I mean, it kind of sounds similar that if I got a flatbread and at home put leftovers on top of it, it'd be pretty similar, right?
Yeah, but for those of you who aren't familiar with Pizza Luce, that's kind of what Pizza Luce does.
Yeah, it does. It's kind of the thing. So in Luce form, too. Now, did you have the regular turkey or the vegetarian version?
I had the regular one.
Thank God. I don't know if we clear. No, I'm sorry. For all your vegetarian friends out there, I'm just joking. The vegetarian version also available, so substituting herbivorous butcher vegan bacon for the turkey. So I guess you can have it with bacon, which if your Thanksgiving is basically a big pile of bacon, well, win or lose, I don't know. We'll roll the dice on that one. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. So I want to specifically address a few people who came at me on Facebook with the idea that my criticism, and one of the things I've talked about in the state of Minnesota is the DFL just had a bad strategy this year. Granted, I understand Angie Craig's seat was an important seat. It clearly was not nearly as in jeopardy as you guys thought it was. There was a ton of DFL money that was poured into that district. And it was probably the most visible race, at least here in the Twin Cities, as far as any of the political races. I didn't see any campaign ads at all for 4 or 5 for McCollum or Ilhan Omar. And I really didn't see that much out in the 3rd congressional district, even though I'm in that district. And, the Democrats won that one fairly handily. I mean, I've made the point. I said you could have probably done a little bit more with going with and helping out the Minnesota 8th congressional district, because once again, you kind of ignored that one, and I think that was a possible one to pick up. But the problem that you had, and I think the reason why, if you want to see one reason why the Minnesota House actually tightened up and now is a tie, I don't think that's changed as of right now. I think it still is technically a tie. The reason why I think things tightened up there, even though Harris won Minnesota, Klobuchar easily won re-election, the House reps all won re-election here, the Senate stayed in the Democrats' hands, and the House tightened up. If I was to say one reason why is that the Angie Craig's race, she ran a campaign where it was basically, I disagree with Joe Biden, I disagree with the Democrats, I work with the other side. And I've said, it does not help. I mean, sure, great, does wonders for you. But if the main message Democrats are hearing in the Twin Cities Metro, which was the primary race we heard in the Twin Cities Metro, is, I don't like Democrats, I work with Republicans, that's not exactly ingraining a sense of DFL pride in the other candidates. And I would say that played a role in the Republicans picking up a few seats in the House. And the thing which I found to be incredibly frustrating was even after the election, Angie Craig did an interview in MinnPost where she went out of her way to once again bash the Democratic Party after the election. after she had an election that she won courtesy of DFL dollars, which came from a lot of progressives and a lot of traditional Democrats, Al Gore Democrats, as I like to call them. A lot of us gave money to the DFL, and she benefited from that, and her big thank you to us is, screw you. And I'm not a big fan of that. And I've actually suggested maybe she should get primaried by, I don't know, a Democrat, because the way she talks right now, I'm half expecting a press conference here in a few months where she talks about how the party has left me. Bon vi freaking yaj, okay? I'm not a big fan of that. But what is really upsetting about her in this whole thing about, you need to do things like us moderates. We did. We did. The primary message here is Democrats will abandon their platform and work with the other side of the aisle. Courtesy of you. That was it. Harris was clearly running a moderate Democrat campaign. She wasn't embracing the left. She ran away from the far left as much as she could. We did it your way, and it was an absolute cluster F. It was. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is the Secretary of Health. Stop acting like you should do things like me. No, the problem is we did do things like you, and in areas where your type of Democrat does not work, you are the message that most people heard. And your mentality is, all you people on the progressive side of the Democratic Party and the true Al Gore centrist Democrats, you need to shut up and just let me talk. That's kind of what your tone is right now. That is your tone. That the problem with the Democratic Party is we allow the people on the far left to let their ideas out. How dare they speak? How dare they let people know they're upset about something? We should clamp down on that and prevent them from saying, and unless it's clear, the message is clear through me, Angie Craig, then and only then should it be said by the Democrats. That's kind of what you're implying, Ange. And I don't like it. So you want to go out there and work with the, pedophile attorney general? You want to go out there with the Russian spy national, intelligence agency director? You want to work with the kook with the brainworm that's now in charge of health? Bon voyage. Go out there and start working. But stop with this, because I've been around a little bit, Ange. I've been around a long time, and I have seen every time the Democrats in this state seem to just absolutely blow the easy layup is when they abandon the traditional Democratic and insist the progressive side needs to be quiet and only do what the moderate Democrats say. That's when we crash and burn. Ta-da! This is tough medicine. 2010, that's all that you heard. All these smug, jackassian, moderate Democrats sitting around there going, why did we pass the Affordable Care Act? We really overstepped. We should have never done that. It was a signature piece of legislation we should have championed for decades. And instead, the Republicans convinced the moderate Democrats, you should be apologizing. And so the entire message in 2010 was what? We're so sorry! And the same exact moderate Democrats, the same exact ones, the day after the election, were all of a sudden like, gee willikers, why didn't we run on the Affordable Care Act? The Affordable Care Act is really popular. Gee, boy, someone really screwed this up. Stop it. Angie, good for you. I'm glad you won. You're welcome from all of us heathen, moderate Democrat, or middle-of-the-road Democrats and progressive Democrats who helped bankroll your campaign. You're welcome. At this point, and trust me, the amount of people who have gotten in touch with me who are furious with you from the DFL way outnumber the people who are supporting you. But I have gotten a few people who have come at me and said, Matt, how dare you? She's the only one that could win this. She's the only one that could be there. No. That district is becoming much more metro. And in case you missed it, she didn't just squeak by Tarib. She absolutely flattened him, which tells me that district ain't nearly as Republican as you guys think it is. I think it's safe enough to where we could actually primary her. And so, fine, you got 2 years. All right, you got a year. You got a year. If you're a Democrat, if you're a DFLer, fine. Show us. Show us how much you appreciate all of the middle-of-the-road Democrat and progressive Democratic dollars that went to your campaign to help you win. Say a big thank you to us by being a DFLer again. If not, call that frickin' press conference tomorrow, Angie. Seriously, just call the press conference tomorrow and say, I have had it. The party's moved away from me. And bon voyage. Go. Welcome to the crazy train on the other side. Your buddies, your pals that you love to work with on the right. Go knock yourself out. You and Marjorie Taylor Greene will be besties. Off you go. Boom. I won't miss you. But unless you start acting like a freaking DFLer, primary her. Because if we have another campaign with doom and gloom Craig there talking about how the Democrats are horrible, you guess what's going to happen next election? Exactly. The Democrats, if you look at track record and you look at campaign messaging, have the most success when they have a traditional middle-of-the-road Democratic platform. Some of it's a little moderate, some of it's a little progressive, and it resonates. I don't mean to tell you that, hey, we can just look at history and it will tell you what we need to do. But that might be where you want to go from here on out. Because listening to the far-right moderate Democrats ain't helping us. And so I'm going to let you know, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this. We need to be just like them. The crazy people, the crazy people. The insane people who are saying there shouldn't be any accountability whatsoever about any of these cabinet positions, the ones that want to put tariffs on all of our products, the ones that want to round up people in the streets, the ones that want to get rid of all union jobs, the ones that want to destroy affordable health care in this country, we're supposed to pal around with those guys? Get out. If you think we should be with them, then go join them and we will be better without you. And a Democrat will win your seat and we'll be fine. But don't sit here and act as if she is somehow, a once-in-a-million candidate. No. And frankly, I'll say this. I don't want to run another candidate race where that race itself poisons the water hole for the other Democrats. I don't want to. And frankly, I'm shocked the DFL allowed her to be as anti-DFL as she was, because that hurt the party. It did. So, it's up to you guys what you want to do over there. You want to be a Democrat again? Show me you're a Democrat. Stop doing interviews talking about how horrible and bad the DFL is, how the Democrats need to be more like Republicans. That, we should be working with the other side. You mean the other side that basically wants to get rid of unions? You think there's okay, well, I want to hear your point. Where's the middle ground in anti-union? Why don't you tell me what that is? What's the middle ground of getting rid of affordable health care? Why don't you tell me what that is? Why don't you give me that middle ground? Are you saying that, you know what, some of these people have to go? I'll let you go tell the people in your own district who run ag companies down there where they are dependent on undocumented workers to keep their product coming out of the fields. I'll let you go tell them and say, well, round them on up, because I guarantee you that will go over well. Well, I was saying to round them up, but not my guys. Yeah, I see. There's a reckoning that needs to be coming. And no, we should not be a pile of ideas anymore. And no, we shouldn't be listening to the most furthest right Democrat insisting we need to even be more to the right. No, that's not. I'm glad you won with that. You're welcome, by the way, once again, for all the DFL money that you got, including my money and a lot of progressive money. You're welcome. Now shut up, please. Please just shut up. No, we need to go back and find out that we're Democrats again. And Ange, you don't like that? Then get the hell out. But the DFL needs to rise again by being the freaking DFL. For God's sakes, in 2023, you guys passed one of the best lists of legislation I have ever seen. And yet now we still have Democrats who are like, I'm ashamed of being a Democrat. That's never a winning message. So my feeling is this. If Angie or any Democrat can't come on board and be part of a middle-of-the-road traditional Democratic Party platform, well, then get out of the way and give us someone that can. Because I'm tired of losing because of smug idiots. I'm real tired of that. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. It is the Matt McNeil Show here on your Thursday. AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. Caller just called in and reminded us of a statement from Harry S. Truman. Now, once again, Harry S. Truman, he's got some baggage there himself, but he made a good point. If you give the people a choice between a Republican or a Democrat who votes like a Republican, they'll choose the Republican almost every time. Almost every time. That's just the deal. And so, be a Democrat. Speaking of it, and there are plenty of things we do that are pretty good here. I've been meaning to give a lot of praise to the folks in St. Paul. More than 32,000 people in St. Paul residents, will soon receive letters telling them their unpaid doctor's bills are no longer due. It's not a scam. It's the first round of a city-backed effort to eliminate $100 million in medical debt for an unsuspecting community members. No application or action is required. It won't be a surprise to them that they owe that debt. It'll be a surprise to them they don't owe it anymore, said Mayor Melvin Carter at a Tuesday news conference. Debt related to soaring health care costs can have sweeping and destabilizing effects, and research shows it cause increased risk of eviction, food insecurity, poor health outcomes, regardless of income. Nearly half of all bankruptcies are linked to medical issues. I guarantee it's going to be more here after RFK Jr. is done. St. Paul's 2024 budget included spending more than $1 million of leftover federal COVID relief work for the nonprofit Undue Medical Debt on forgiving unpaid bills. Undue Medical Debt, formerly known as RIP Medical Debt, negotiates with hospital systems to purchase eligible debt in batches at a steep discount. It then forgives the bills, relieving customers of the burden of pay. St. Paul's program will cover those who make up to 400% of the federal poverty guidelines, about $54,000 for an individual, $111,000 for a family of four, or who have medical debt that equates to 5% or more of their annual household income. Wow, what a godsend. See, Democrats do a lot of good things. Melvin Carter, you are a good mayor, my friend. Okay, Mayor Carter, just keep running, okay? I know you might. I don't know if you have plans for higher office, but dude, you are making St. Paul absolutely good. I am very happy with things going. You're doing a great job, Melvin Carter. Nicely done. You do good things, man. The funds will only cover residents' unpaid health bill systems within the city, though, because the city used one-time federal funding to initiate. Future bills will need to be paid. Carter describes the reset for those who have struggled post-pandemic. I agree. The first, you can put out these negatives, but the reality is we're doing something really positive here. I'm sure some people, Andrew Craig, might call it socialism. My Republican friends told me that was bad. I can't help you with that. I don't know if she would or not. I don't know. Has she put out anything that's not been a scathing insult to the Democrats lately? I don't know. The first wave of forgiveness announced Tuesday covered $40 million in debt owed to University of Minnesota Health, M-Health Fairview, I should say, M-Health Fairview. While the average balance of this batch was $286, one person will see $104,972 worth of bills disappear. God bless you. God bless you. Other health care systems have said they will work with the city and nonprofit to settle the bills. Backers say they hope the effort will have a positive ripple effect on public health, with residents more willing to seek medical care once their debts are cleared. Residents whose bills were cleared under this first wave of debt forgiveness should get a letter in the next 10 days or so. God, you see, first of all, let's just make sure. As some Democrats talk about their buddies on the other side of the aisle, there's not a single freaking Republican that would have signed off on this. They owe money, make them pay. They're moocher class. That's what they'd be saying. So, screw those guys. They're not my buddies. You see, I'm a Democrat. No, what you get here is you got quality government working for the people. God bless you. Amen. And my God, why aren't we doing this more often? 104,000. Think about that. Someone's got $104,000 worth of medical debt out there, and it's gone. It's gone. Suddenly, they're not going to be tears of sadness. They're going to be tears of joy. That's what government can do when it works efficiently and effectively. And it does that when the Democrats are in charge. Mayor Carter, nicely done. I think we all deserve him a nice little round of applause. We'll take a break. Come on back. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. It is the Matt McNeil Show here on your Thursday. You know, some disco was pretty cool, man. It is the Matt McNeil Show, 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205 is the phone number. So, hey, not only can we congratulate Melvin Carter and the folks in St. Paul who have taken care of some people's medical debt. Nicely done, my friends. Nicely done. I also am going to be in complete agreement with Patrick Cooligan over at The Reformer, who we usually have on the air here on Tuesdays. He actually wrote this editorial piece, and I am spot on in agreement with him because there is something that people want to legalize here, and I am just not a big fan of it. Of all the good things the DFL-controlled Minnesota legislature achieved during the 2023-2024 trifecta, free college for working families, paid leaves, free school meals, they should also be applauded for something they didn't do. They didn't legalize sports betting on mobile sports betting in particular. This was a less than rational policy decision than the legislature failure on the part of the gambling industry's advocates and allied lawmakers. But as my father always said, I'd rather be lucky than good. When we are lucky, we didn't just put an always-on sports book in the pocket of every Minnesotan. Just since the 2024 legislative session ended without a deal on sports gambling, evidence has continued to mount that legalization of online sports betting leads to all manner of bad, if entirely unexpected, outcomes. Bloomberg reported this week that 20% of the money in the Brazilian government handed out for its flagship social program in August was spent on online gambling sites, while the number of gamblers in Brazil has doubled in the last 6 months. Here in the United States, the U.S. Supreme Court decision allowing states to legalize sports betting has proved to be an excellent natural experiment in what happens in states that have legalized, including many of Minnesota's neighbors, and those that have not. A professor at UCLA Anderson School of Management found that 2 USC colleagues that legal online gambling led to roughly 28% increase in bankruptcy likelihood and an 8% increase in debt collection amounts. I want to make sure we have a bankruptcy likelihood increased by over a quarter just because of online sports betting. Now, let me step back here. Have you noticed the way that they sell online sports betting now? It used to be hey, you can make a bet on tonight's game. But now it is, there's the over-under. You can bet this. You can bet this quarterback. You can bet this. You can bet this. That's how you get these guys going into debt, is you start losing money and they start saying, well, I'll just place another bet and I'll make the money. Oh, I lost the money again there. There are people every year that lose their house because of sports betting on the Super Bowl. Every year they lose their house. Families who lose their house because some guy says, I'm going to go and do this. And there was one guy, when I had my back break, I had a settlement, and I was reading this article about settlements in this, and apparently one guy got a settlement. Had been waiting for years to get a settlement. Finally got the settlement. The next day he calls up his lawyer again and says, "Hey, but is there any more money?" And they said, "No. Why? What happened?" And I said, "I went and gambled it away." Because you can go through a lot of money real fast gambling. The other thing that we need to make sure we understand about this is that the concept, there's a lot of vice that has tried very hard to get their brand in front of your kids' faces at a younger and younger age. it started with, I remember when my kids were little, and all of a sudden I'd be in the grocery store, it's like, a Jack Daniel's barbecue sauce. Wait a second here, Jack Daniel's barbecue. Why are we selling a Jack Daniel's barbecue sauce? And it wasn't because of the barbecue sauce. Barbecue sauce kind of sucked, frankly. I mean, it is what it is. But I mean, I'm a kind of a North Carolina, South Carolina mustard vinegar base myself. But that's just me. That being said, it wasn't about the sauce. It was about the logo and getting that logo in front of kids' faces. And a lot of businesses do that now. A lot of them have a kids version of their logo on a brand of something to try to build up brand loyalty at a younger and younger age. There isn't, you'll be surprised to guess, there's an online betting forum doesn't exactly have the most in regards to, roadblocks to stop underage people from gambling. They try. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think they don't want to get caught, allowing kids on their site gambling because it doesn't help their cause. But it's relatively easy to do. And like I said, the new norm when it comes to gambling is not I'm going to put some money on the Vikes game. I think they're going to beat the Titans, and I'll put $50 on the game. Now it's I'm going to take $50 on whether or not this player makes this shot. Oh, I lost. Okay, I'm down 50. I'll make another 50. They'll make this next shot. Oh, they lost it again, so I'm down 100. Okay, so I'm going to bet 100 now. And by the end of the day, you've got a massive amount of debt. So this doesn't surprise me. And there are a lot of people in sporting journalism and in the sports media in this town who are like, why can't we put a bet on this game? Why do you have to? Why? I mean, I'm dead serious. Why? Why? I mean, if you want to put a bet on a game, talk to your buddy. I'll put $50 on the game. Boom. Done. Why do you have to have a sports betting app? Which makes me wonder how many of these guys are getting paid by the sports betting apps to try to push the sports betting apps. I don't know. As far as the sports books and casinos, I did like that idea. I thought that the Native American, and once again, it's one of the least things we could do to how much the Native American population was screwed over. I think that if you're going to have them, putting them in the Native American casinos only is the best option. The sports leagues all thought that was a good idea. And that you basically, that was the case. I don't really have a problem with that. I do have a little bit more of a problem putting it in the other racetracks that are not Native American. I don't want a situation where it's like some cities where everywhere you go there's a slot machine or a gambling machine or you can buy your lottery tickets here, that sort of thing. I don't think that makes us better as a society in any capacity. I should mention, going back to Cooligan's story here, indeed, credit scores do drop. And we currently are ranking towards the top of the nation in regards to Minnesota's average credit score. We find a pattern suggesting the effects of gambling are strongest on low-income younger men. This seems not great. No, and it's not. And I can say this. I have my son. That is something that there's a lot more acumen and paying attention to this, because this is what sports has become. For goodness sakes, I'll go to the Y and run on a Sunday morning, and one of the shows on, I think is it ESPNU? I'm not sure. All it is what's the over-under on this? What's the over-under on that? What's the over-under on this? What's the over-under on that? I mean, that's the entire thing. For goodness sake, wait a second. Isn't the new, the Timberwolves, the old Bally Sports is now FanDuel, for goodness sakes? They're already advertising to us, and we don't have it here. Another study of 230,000 households, a professor of finance at Northwestern, joined by colleagues from BYU and Kansas, found that legal online betting led to heightened financial instability as households run up credit card balances and more frequently overdraw from their bank accounts. Wow. The usual effect of a $1 online sports deposit, is a reduction in the net investment of just under $1. So basically, you could put your money into a retirement account for your future, or you could wager on the Eagles. These are dark. I should remind you too. Your gambling is set for you to lose, man. There isn't a successful gambling app where more people win than put money into it. So it's just you need to understand that element of the whole thing. There are dark portents for legal online sports gambling in Minnesota, given what we already know about the taste for games of chance. A Wilder research report on the State Department of Human Services found that 56,000 Minnesota adults, or 1.3%, are problem gamblers, which means they've lost control. 162,000 adults, or nearly 3.8%, are at risk. Taken together, that's more than 200,000 Minnesotans in a state of 5.7 million, which is a pretty substantial chunk. Over 1/4 of adults in Minnesota know someone whose gambling may have caused them financial difficulties, impacting their health, or damaging their personal, family, or work relationships, according to the report, whose authors conducted a survey of 8,512 recipients. Minnesotans spend roughly $6.5 billion on gambling in 2022, including pull tabs, other charitable gambling, lottery tickets, and gambling at tribal casinos. As the firm's Chris Ingram reported earlier this year, revenue from e-tabs, which are the slot machine-ish devices you find in bars, has increased nearly 1,100% since 2017, while paper pull tab revenue is up by 44%. Moreover, low-income Minnesotans are the most susceptible to gambling, false promise of a quick route out of poverty. Ingram analyzed retailer-level sales data to find that state lottery revenues come disproportionately from people in Minnesota's lower-income neighborhoods, effectively turning the state lottery into a highly regressive tax on the working class. Here's the startling data. In the poorest 5% of zip codes, where families bring in an average of $45,000 per year, the typical adult spends about $150 on the lottery annually. Scariest of all, legalized online sports betting seems to increase the risk of domestic violence, according to a paper by the University of Oregon. Minnesota dodged a bullet by not legalizing online sports betting this year. To legalize now would be the equivalent of reloading the gun and handing it back to the gambling industry. Now, I think that's a little bit of a metaphor over the top, but why do we need to bet? I mean, seriously, why? I mean, it's like, well, so we can have fun with friends. Well, can't you just do that? I mean, I am in a fantasy football league. All right, we all put some money in every year. One person gets money out of it. Ta-da! It's that simple. And it's a year-long commitment. It is not exactly, the heaviest entry fee. I think it's like, is it $5 or something like that? It's more about bragging rights. But it is, and speaking of which, I better check my roster here for tonight because I got a Thursday night game. The truth is that you get a really, minimal thing that you can do that doesn't require a sports bet online thing on your phone. That's not asking you to bet constantly all the time over the top. We have plenty of, as Cooligan here talks about these other things that we have in the state, I'm not talking about pulling those back. I mean, those are there. It's a slippery slope. Once you open it up, there you go. You're not going to really rein that stuff in. And hey, I'd be lying if I didn't say every once in a while when those lotteries get up real high, of course, I throw up down the $2 to buy a ticket. But the overall negatives of this far outweigh the positives. And like I said, just going back to the one stat, there's one statistic you want to take out of this article which should scare you to death. A 28% increase in bankruptcy likelihood. A 28% increase. That's pretty freaking substantial, man. And it's because, and like I said, if you watch the Wild play tonight, you've got the Thursday night football game. Who is it? Is that Washington, Philly? That's Washington, Philly tonight?
Yep, that's right.
Thank you. A lot of people will be watching it. If you watch those games, what will you see is every 5 seconds you could make a bet on something. Every 5 seconds. You should trust your hunch. Your hunch is trying to drive you in the right way. That's the one that I love is the trust your hunch. It's like you're going to be wheeling and dealing, rolling around in cash as you sit there on a Thursday night football game. I'll say one final thing about this. when I was in the military, I was in Nuremberg, Germany, and so the Germans actually have gambling. They have basically they have kind of a gaming machines that they'd have in every bar out there. And my roommate kind of got a little bit addicted to it. Todd, he was a nice guy. And Todd got a little bit addicted to it. And we were living in a little concerned about him because he'd go over and he'd come back and it's like, I won $50. And I said, how much money did you put in? Well, $200. And he's like, okay, you didn't win $50. You lost $150. And just having to explain this to him, even though he was feeling good, the reality is someone needed to explain, no, you're actually losing. Well, that's kind of what happens with a lot of this stuff. Is the guy will tell you, your buddy will tell you, hey, I placed a wager on whether that kicker was going to make that kick, and he did, and I made $50 on that. Well, great. What they're not telling you is how much money did you wager that night, and how much money did you lose? Well, $1,000? Well, you came out on the wrong end of that. You're trying to look like a winner, but I can tell you right now, I don't know if that's necessarily the way to do it. Because, frankly, the odds are stacked against you. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Take a break, come back. It's the Matt McNeil Show on the Thursday. AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota, the Matt McNeil Show. Yeah, they try to make it. They try to make it seem like it's a good idea that as many bets as possible is really good. It reminds me of when you'll see an alcohol commercial where it's two guys carrying a 12-pack of beers. Now, I'm no math whiz, but that would be 6 beers apiece. And yet, that's kind of hey, look at this. Yeah, and there might be some other people in there, but they're all carrying their own bottles of beer and their own bottles of liquor, too. So it's, yeah. But hey, drink responsibly. Yeah, there you go. Sure, we're telling you to wager 100 bets in 5 minutes, but hey, gamble safe. It's like, what does that even mean? I got my story for you here, which is yeah. How can you tell the guy is a white guy without me saying it's a white guy? Well, listen in here. A 53-year-old man has been sentenced to probation for being drunk when he crashed his utility terrain vehicle in southern Minnesota and killed his passenger. He was drunk. He crashed his UTV, killed somebody, and that's probation. White guy! Come on.
Come on, Matt. The boys were just out having some fun.
You don't get country way of life, Matt. This is just wholesome salt of the earth. So an accident happened. Oh, we're supposed to condemn that person? All right. Lance Lieferman, there's your second clue. Lance Lieferman of rural Mapleton, Minnesota, was sentenced Tuesday in Blue Earth County District Court to 3 years probation after pleading guilty to a criminal operation while under the influence of alcohol in connection to the crash shortly before midnight on September 15th, 2022. 2022, dear God, it took you for a long time. If this was a black person, I guarantee you they would have already had that guy in jail by Christmas of 2022. The accident happened in County Road 7 on 150th Street. Susan Quiriam, 59, of nearby Elysian, was killed in the crash. Judge Mark Betters' sentences includes the opportunity for Lieferman's conviction to be reduced from a felony to a misdemeanor. Wow. If he abides by all the terms of his probation, which includes abstaining from alcohol and illicit drugs and attending a drunken driving impact panel. Once again, not only was he drunk driving on a UTV, which this would be the punishment I would expect probation and get his record clean if he was just drunk on a UTV and got pulled over, got into an accident, no one died. But somebody died here, and this is quite literally a slap on the wrist. White guy, according to the criminal complaint. Lieferman told a police officer at the scene that he and Quiriam were out for a ride on the side-by-side UTV when she yelled, "Hole!" She was thrown from the vehicle into the hole, and the UTV landed on top of her. He tried in vain to get the UT off of her before running to get help. Lieferman admitted having to drink too much, estimating that he'd had 5 to 8 beers over the course of the day. 5 to 8. The fact that you don't know how many beers you had probably means it was closer to 8. He submitted to a preliminary breath test at 1:25 a.m., 2 to 2.5 hours after his final beer, and registered his blood alcohol content at that point at 0.06. That's within the legal limit. However, his degree of intoxication at the time of the crash likely was well above 0.08, the state's legal minimum to be considered drunk while driving. Well, even if he wasn't drunk driving, there's a dead body here. How? I was mad enough that my back got broken by a drunk driver and that there was no prison time. You know, the individual wanted to go through a kind of enhanced alcohol treatment program that if they were able to, which was very strict, and if they were able to get out of it, they would get their record expunged. And so that was what they were attempting. I have no idea. I don't care. I did feel as if, nearly killing me. If not for the graces of my Toyota Sienna and the design of that sucker, I would not be here right now. So I would have hoped it would have been a little bit more there. But I didn't die. There's a dead body here. Someone died because of this guy's malfeasance. And you're giving him probation? Something tells me that in this county, if there was just an injury and a black man or a Native American man or a Hispanic man was involved, they would be looking at 10 years of jail time. Tell me the guy is white without telling me the guy is white. Ta-da. Native Roots Radio is up next. Make sure you stick around for that fantastic show. We are back on a Friday. Till then, see ya.